This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you today? On Wednesday, 24th. It's the Joe Gaither Show right here on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Joe Gaither 6 for all your social media needs. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. It's going to be hopefully a fun show today. We invite you guys to jump in and join us on the comments section at Joe Gaither 6. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Send me a comment, question, query, and complaint as we continue to talk about rumors and roster movement. Roster movement, and I guess a little amateurism are on the table today as we're going to talk about Alabama basketball and their latest rumors as they seek to fill all 13 scholarships. We'll do a little roster to track our counters to see how many scholarships are full, see how many are open, and what we think are going, how they're going to be filled with the latest rumors as they are. We're going to talk about football as we've got two Alabama scholarship guys who have gone into the transfer portal in the last 3 days, one about an hour and change ago, and one on Monday. So we'll talk about Curtis Perry, and we'll talk about James Brockermeyer going into the transfer portal, and then we'll talk a little bit about Reggie Bush as well. Reggie Bush, actually, let's start with Reggie Bush because that's the easiest topic to get into. Reggie Bush has his Heisman Trophy reinstated today by the Heisman Trophy Trust. Look, I was, 2006, so I'm a sophomore, junior in high school, watching Reggie Bush, and he is one of the most electric players I have ever seen in college football. Obviously, the pro career didn't really match the hype of the college career. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as impressive as the college career. But Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy removed from him by the Heisman Trophy Trust because he received impermissible benefits, improper benefits. Let's see. When did they do that? 14 years ago. Yeah, 14 years ago. That would have put us at 2010. That would have put us 4 years after the Heisman Trophy was actually awarded. And look, why? First, yay, we're going to celebrate the fact that Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy reestablished to himself. But let's just conceptually talk about vacated wins, vacated Heisman Trophies, vacated awards. Look, you're never going to be able to take away my memories as a sophomore, junior, freshman in high school watching Reggie Bush play at USC. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, you had Lindell White as well. Great team. The Bush push on the goal line up there up there in South Bend. I mean, I can remember it as clear as day. And so the Heisman Trophy to go and, we're taking your award away. And you look at the 2006 Heisman Trophy and it says, vacated. Nobody's won. What a load of hooey. What a terrible punishment, in my opinion. Not really effective because you're never going to take away my memories. And I watched that and look, Reggie Bush has the memory of him, the picture of him holding up the trophy for forever and ever. So what a stupid, ineffective method of punishment. And we've seen this really throughout college sports. I mean, Joe Paterno's scandal up in Penn State, they vacate a whole bunch of wins and he falls from first or second in the all-time wins category down the pack. You saw it, same sort of thing. Florida State, Bobby Bowden had some vacated wins. Nick Saban in 2007, right? The textbook scandal, some vacated wins as well. But the memories remain. We all know who played those football games. We all know who played well in those football games. The internet exists for a reason. The history is there and accessible for everyone. So the Heisman Trophy, you give him a slight applause today for re-awarding Reggie Bush his Heisman Trophy. But I roll my eyes. At the holier than thou, the sanctimonious kind of, we're taking away your Heisman Trophy because you got impermissible benefits. Look, the landscape of college athletics today, everyone's getting benefits. Now they are permissible. And so it's just silly. I think it's a positive move by the Heisman Trophy, but just a silly move in general that you even had to do this. Reggie Bush shouldn't have had his Heisman Trophy taken away from him. And now here we are. All is right in the world. But Today's ruling basically does signify. I mean, it's another step. It's another benchmark towards amateurism being dead. Look, Reggie Bush was getting benefits in 2006, as he should. He was lining the Southern California USC's money with USC's pockets with money. You had the who's who of celebrity out there. I remember Snoop Dogg was out there at USC all the time. The Pete Carroll USC days were were a special moment. And so, yeah, Reggie Bush deserved to get some of that compensation and have the apartment for his mother and just kind of help his life be a little bit smoother. But amateurism is officially dead. And if you didn't believe it, you can just look at the transfer portal for college football. And you can just look at Alabama for an example. You look at Alabama, and okay, Monday you see Curtis Perry go into the transfer portal, and you're not going to boo-hoo too much about Curtis Perry, redshirt freshman, only played in one game last year in the MTSU game, didn't really get onto the field. He was a highly recruited defensive lineman out of Pike Road, Alabama, but he goes into the transfer portal. You're really packed at the defensive line position. Lots of talent in that room, and so, okay, somebody leaves and looks for better opportunities. That's not what really set my radar off. That's just one of those things that happens. You got to get under the 85 scholarships, and somebody's got to go into the transfer portal. I believe that Alabama's right on that 86, 84, 85, somewhere in that range. So if you're going to be adding talent, somebody's got to depart. Well, okay, Curtis Perry becomes that guy on Monday, and you wish him all the best. And ideally, he goes on and has a great career. But Monday and Tuesday had a different development that I think is very interesting. On Monday late day, we heard the name Ed Woods. If you're not up on the college football transfer portal and you're not chasing every rumor, that's okay. Ed Woods is a cornerback for Arizona State? Yeah, Arizona State cornerback. He is a senior. He's a redshirt senior. He's been over there for a long time. Ed Woods goes into the transfer portal. He's played 32 games across 4 seasons over at Arizona State. Now, obviously, look, Arizona State, not a football power, but my man's has how many tackles? How many career tackles? Total 33 and 28. That's 50. That's 61. That's 60. Yeah, it's 61 plus 5 is 66. 66 total tackles, 1 sack, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 interception in his career with 4 pass breakups last season. Okay, this is a positive thing. We all know Alabama needs a cornerback. You needed to get a corner in the transfer portal. The interesting thing about Ed Woods was he goes in the transfer portal and essentially right off the bat, I have a visit scheduled with Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and he tells reporters out in Arizona State that out there in Arizona State that I went into the transfer portal with Alabama on my mind. And look, from an Alabama perspective, yay, roll tide. That's great. Okay, you got a guy that wants to come to Alabama. You needed a cornerback. You needed a cornerback with experience. I think Damani Jackson, and I think Jaleel Hurley, and I think that Jalen Mbakwe and Xavier Brown and Xavier Mincy are going to be quality corners, but they are deeply inexperienced. You look at Damani Jackson, the only guy with college snaps. The other guys, they looked talented when we saw them at A-Day and the couple of times that we were allowed to be at practice. But goodness gracious, the lack of experience scares me to death. It scares me to death. If I were pulling for Alabama and wanting the defense to be good, to be really, really good, that's an obvious area of need. And many people pointed it out during the spring window opening. Oh, Alabama needs to go get a corner. Okay, well, great. You identified Ed Woods, or Ed Woods has identified himself. Oh, I'm a redshirt senior. I've played in 32 college games, Power 5 level. I know the Pac-12 isn't the SEC, but I've played against good quarterbacks throughout my time. It's a positive for Alabama, isn't it? Okay, yes, it is. But karma comes calling today a little bit. At least that's the way I see it. Maybe you don't see it that way, and you can jump in and correct me at Joe Gaither 6 on any the platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, wherever, at Joe Gaither 6. Ed Woods goes to the transfer portal with Alabama on his mind on Monday, and basically that seems like it's almost a done deal, a lock. All right, great. And then today, James Brockermeyer, surprise, big Shockermeyer, Shockermeyer, Brockermeyer? No, James Brockermeyer goes into the transfer portal, an hour and change ago, opts to go into the transfer portal. And this is a little bit of a surprise on multiple levels. But the reason why I maybe say karma comes calling is James Brockermeyer goes into the transfer portal today with a do not contact tag. And so, what does that tell me as someone just following the stuff? Is that James Brockermeyer was tampered with. James Brockermeyer knows where he wants to go, whether it's Texas, TCU, Baylor. Those seem to be the three prevalent, SMU as well, the four prevalent schools. Obviously, he's from the Dallas area, and his brother Tommy transferred to TCU in the 2022 offseason. Now, if you haven't kept up with Tommy Brockermeyer, he has since retired from football. So he went to TCU and didn't really. I think he played one season and retired. James Brockermeyer was in line to be Alabama's starting center. Obviously, Alabama brought in Parker Brailsford from the transfer portal, but Parker Brailsford was dealing or has been dealing with his own personal issues. And so James Brockermeyer got the majority of the reps with the first string offensive line this spring. Now, maybe Brailsford, when he returned to the offensive line, would have changed that, would have taken that number one job. It put James Brockermeyer on the bench. But from me, only seeing snippets and little bits of the, only 3 practices during the spring and obviously at A-Day, it seemed like James was doing well. It seemed like he was doing well. And look, if I were a coach, I would be probably leaning towards playing the guy that got a lot of the repetitions during spring practice. Now, obviously, that might have changed in the fall if Brailsford was just better, was just out and out better. But okay, we don't even get to play that out because James Brockermeyer goes to the transfer portal with a do not contact tag on today. And so he's, I would say, likely to go to one of these schools, Texas, Baylor, TCU, or SMU, one of these Texas schools. They're from that area, and good on you. Go play and be where you can be the best, for yourself, and where you can maximize your value. But it's very odd to me. It's very interesting to me. Like, okay, Alabama has a serious hole at center. You lose Seth McLaughlin, and I know how many of you guys complained and cried about McLaughlin and his terrible snaps last year, but you lose him. Yes, that's a loss. You got to replace him. You had Brockermeyer on the roster. You go out and get Brailsford. You lost TJ Ferguson, Terrence Ferguson, who went to Florida State in the transfer portal. So, like, it's been a wild road for the center position. And so where are you at now? You are without James Brockermeyer, and you don't really, let's be honest with ourselves. Was Parker Brailsford really good for Washington last year? Yes, absolutely. And was the Alabama fan base excited about Parker Brailsford and the possibility of him just being a plug-and-play guy? Yeah. Is that still on the table? I don't even know. I don't know, because what I've heard about Parker Brailsford is not that really he's incapable and not really that he's dealing with depression, is that, okay, you have the scheme change from the previous offensive line coach to Chris Kapilovich, Scott Huff. Yeah, Scott Huff was the initial offensive line coach and coached Parker Brailsford last season. Now you've got Chris Kapilovich, who's come from Michigan State, by the way, of Baylor, right? Who's now the new offensive line coach. And apparently, Chris Kapilovich's was more of a man-on-man blocking scheme. The guy right in front of you, that's the guy you block. And we're going to go man up and power-based blocking scheme. All right, great. No problem with that. Okay, but Scott Huff, the prior offensive line coach, the offensive line coach where Parker Brailsford excelled under last season up there in Washington, was let's get out in space, let's zone block, let's move the offensive line, let's get you into a position, create angles and advantages in a zone blocking scheme. We know that Parker Brailsford is a little bit undersized. What was he listed, 275 or so? But that's not a huge problem at the center position, especially if you are zone blocking, where you're getting into space and, okay, my guard is blocking the defensive tackle for a step or two. Now I am on the defensive tackle. Everything's in motion and everything is in rotation. And so it favors the athletic offensive lineman, and it favors the mobile and, maybe the undersized offensive lineman, but the one who can get out into space. And so the schematics have changed just a little bit. And I think that has maybe caused a crisis of confidence for Parker Brailsford. I don't want to speak for him, obviously, because I'm not his best friend and I'm not his brother, and we're not having a one-on-one conversations. But this is just what I have been kind of gathered through whispers in the wind, So it leaves a huge question. Is Parker Brailsford going to come back to Alabama and to the program? Kalen DeBoer has never given any indication that is up for debate. Kalen DeBoer has essentially said, look, I have no worries and no concerns of him transferring. He's going to be back in the program. He's going to be with the team. He's just working through some things. I tend to believe the coach because he hasn't really given us any reason to not believe him yet. Obviously, it's only been a couple of months, but there hasn't been any glaring, oh, you lied about that, coach. So I believe Kalen DeBoer that when it talks about Parker Brailsford staying with the team. But now you've got big issues in the depth department. Look, I felt good. You should have felt good about Brailsford Brockermeyer combo, one or the other, with the other one on the bench, waiting in the wings. 8A was fine. You saw Joe Ionata and Will Sanders work as the backup centers. And look, both those guys have been on this show, and I love them both as guys, and I believe in them as players. I'll just put that out from my own, I have a favorable opinion of those two guys. But with that said, neither of them have played center in high school. I mean, William did a teeny bit at Brookwood, but not really. Mostly it was guard and tackle. Same thing with Ionata. It was guard and tackle over at Calvary Christian. Do I think that both those guys are capable of doing it? Yes. Yeah, they're smart guys, athletic guys, gritty guys, hardworking fellas. That is who they are as their DNA. But they haven't done it yet. They haven't had the experience yet. And look, was 8A? 8A was fine. 8A was good. There was a couple errant snaps. There were a couple errant snaps, but that's to be expected when you have, let's be honest, those two guys should still be in high school. High schoolers snapping it in front of 70,000 fans at 8A. Sometimes the snaps would go a little bit all over the board, especially when you're not a center by trade. I think that Alabama is going to have to go into the transfer portal and get a center now. And you've got 5 days. You got 6 days left to really work in the transfer portal. I think that the first week, last week when the transfer portal first opened, you had some trepidation, I'm not sure if I want to leave my school. Look, it's a risk. In this spring window, I think you're seeing that play out. You're seeing, I think, more guys, I'm not going in the transfer portal just to test the market. I'm going in the transfer portal because I know that I'm going to school X, Y, or Z. I think that most of the guys who are going into the portal these days, you looked at Jalen Rashada. Jalen Rashada, the quarterback at Arizona State, goes in the transfer portal, is pretty much locked in to go to Georgia. You're going to the people who are going to the portal now are, this premier school has called me and wants me and needs me. And so I'm going to the portal and I'm going to take advantage of that NIL and of that situation, really. So Alabama, you need a corner. You go in and let's be honest, very likely tampered with Ed Woods to get Ed Woods to go into the transfer portal, identified him. Arizona State, y'all got a loaded defensive back room. We need a defensive back. Ed Woods, redshirt senior, he's been playing. He's starting throughout your spring. Well, we want him. That's the guy. Ed Woods goes in the portal. Look, let's be honest. Playing corner at Arizona State or playing corner at Alabama, I know you've got the biased perspective here, but SEC versus I guess not Pac-12 anymore. I don't know. It's a no-brainer to me. You're going to go play in the SEC where probably you got a decent NIL deal and you're going to be on a bigger stage for NFL scouts. So, look, you can celebrate getting Ed Woods because I think that is, it's not set in stone, but it's close to a done deal. But on the other side, don't cry about James Brockermeyer leaving because while I believe that James Brockermeyer very likely was tampered with, it also seems like Alabama was doing the tampering when it came to Ed Wood. So, look, Reggie Bush gets his Heisman Trophy back. Amateurism is dead, and we see it all play out right here at the local level here in Tuscaloosa with tampering NIL with the college football transfer portal. One other thing, we didn't bring it up on Monday, but with the transfer portal, the NCAA broke my heart. Look, I am pro athlete. I am pro player. I want the players to make money with NIL, and I want the players to put themselves into the best positions possible. If James Brockermeyer, if that's at a different school, best of luck to you, and go maximize your time playing college football, because it is so finite. It is a short time of your life. But the NCAA broke my heart on Monday by ratifying the rule that basically says that anybody can transfer anytime, any year without penalty. Look, when the transfer portal was a thing, many people complained, and, oh, you're going to kill college football. You're going to kill college athletics. Oh, this, that, and the other. I think the one-time transfer is fine. I think it's an okay thing. Look, I went to Alabama. Let's just say, Joe Athlete went to Alabama, and I realized, oh my gosh, everybody's better than me here. I probably belong at Jacksonville State, or I probably belong at maybe Mississippi State, or even, there are other Power 5 programs that are not Alabama, maybe Rutgers or like something like that. I'm going to go play at UConn. I'm going to go play at smaller school, Texas Tech, like that aren't Alabama. And so you transfer out. That one time you realize, oh man, this pond is too big for me. I'm going to go in a smaller pond and try to find some playing time. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody wants to play. Everybody should, go maximize their short time. My issue becomes the second and third and fourth and fifth transfers. I mean, look, Alabama benefited this year with Aaron Estrada. Aaron Estrada went to Oregon, went to Hofstra, and then went to Alabama. And I think there's another school. I think there was a fourth school as well before he came to Alabama. And look, am I upset about Aaron Estrada being a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team this year? Absolutely not. But it's just if it's hard. Look, it's hard to really identify, embrace, and really get behind players when you know, oh, this guy might be gone in 12 months. This guy might be gone at the end of the year. Now, going to the NBA, going to the NFL, going to the professional route, you encourage that. That's great. But I think that second and third and fourth transfer is taking advantage of the system. Look, you go a place and you realize, oh man, even let's think about it the reverse way. Let's say Joe Athlete goes to Shelton, goes to what small school you want to throw out there. Goes to Alabama A&M, okay, and excels. Oh my gosh, Joe Athlete threw for 3,000 yards at Alabama A&M. He looks like a real good quarterback. I mean, he was just under-scouted in high school. You transfer to South Carolina, to Georgia, to a bigger school. Like, that should be allowed. You make a bad decision out of high school, that should be allowed. Or, hey, you want to go maximize your NIL dollars one time because you showed out one year at small school X, or even at big school X, and you want to go max. Okay, that's fine. It's the second transfer that is causing massive issues. And really, it'd be best if you went back to the original transfer rules where you had to sit out a year on the first rule, but you're never going to get that genie back in the bottle. You're never going to put that back. The kids are not going to sit out a year. But that second time they should, because look, we've talked about it before on the program, and we're kind of dancing around it with Ed Woods and James Brockermeyer. I do, without proof, I do believe that James Brockermeyer and Ed Woods were tampered with, but you wouldn't be tampering with these athletes if they had to sit out. You wouldn't do it. There'd be no reason for me to call Joe Schmo Athlete X and say, hey, man, I really need you on my team. I have a real big hole at your position, and I can offer you $500,000. You won't do that if that Joe Schmo Athlete has to come to your school and sit out a year. You won't be offering them near as much money, and you won't be trying to entice them into the transfer portal. So the NCAA broke my heart on Monday by ratifying and basically making it official. It was a kind of a court injunction. Now it is an official rule on the NCAA level that anybody every year, there's no restrictions. You don't have to sit out a year. You can transfer basically as many times as you want to. And that just makes me a little bit sad for the state of all college athletics. Let's finish this bad boy out by talking Alabama basketball, because there has been a lot of news, not news, not quite newsworthiness, but a lot of rumors. That we'll say that. Okay, first on Monday, Muhammad Wague goes into the transfer portal. So let's do a reset on where we are scholarship numbers, because at one point during the offseason, It'd be helpful if I didn't mute my microphone. How about that? Yeah, how about that? At one point during the season, I had Muhammad Waikiki as a transfer out candidate. Then it was, he's not going to transfer out. But on Monday, Muhammad Waikiki does declare his intentions to transfer out of the program. So where are you at? Let's just talk about that. You have Muhammad. You have. Okay, let me do that counter. I needed to erase that. Yeah, Aiden Holloway has come in from the transfer portal. Mohamed Diabate has come in from the transfer portal. Latrell Wrightsell on Tuesday. Yep, we didn't talk about that. Latrell Wrightsell on Tuesday confirmed his intention to come back to Alabama. Jaron Stevenson, you haven't heard anything about him, but you expect him to be back. Chris Youngblood and Houston Millette are out of the transfer portal as well, while Nas Cunningham, Darian Reed, and Aiden Sherrill are high school freshmen. So what's that number, Olivia? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have 10, 11, 12, 13, 4 spots, right? And the rumors, we need to make sure you hear that they are rumors, not facts. The rumors are those 4 spots are going to be filled by Mark Sears, by Grant Nelson. How stupid is this? By Clifford Amori and LeBaron Philon. What? How dumb is this? Unbelievable. It would be the most talented basketball roster ever assembled in Tuscaloosa. I'm sorry, Coach Sanderson. I love you, Wimp Sanderson. But it would be from 1 to 13 the most talented basketball roster that has ever been assembled at the Capstone. It would be stupid. All right, let's just talk about it. The 4 empty spots. Look, you're hearing Mark Sears. The things that we said on Monday still remain. Nothing has changed. Mark Sears, very, very viable draft candidate. In the draft, wants to see his draft stock, as he should. And as Alabama fans, you should encourage that. But if he's not getting positive feedback, basically top 35, top 40 picks, if he's not getting positive feedback, very, very likely that Mark Sears is going to be coming back to school. Now, we outlined it. The draft is pretty weak. And so with the weak draft, that helps Mark Sears' case. I still think that it's probably about, you want me to put a number on it? I think you're going to get about a 45% chance. About a 45% chance that Mark Sears returns to school, because you don't really know what the draft guys are going to say, what the scouts are going to say. So there's one of our spots. Grant Nelson is in the same sort of boat. Grant Nelson wants to go pro, and you want to see him go pro. You want to see all of the Alabama basketball players go pro, whether it's in the NBA or overseas. Go get paid, because it just helps the program. But if he doesn't get what he wants, doesn't hear what he wants to hear, then it sounds like he's leaning towards coming back to school. You see Preston Murphy go onto social media today, Alabama's assistant basketball coach, and put up a graphic. Basically, all it said was Sweet Home Alabama, but it was a photo of the state of Alabama. It had a Final Four logo in it from this past year, and it had a small graphic of Grant Nelson dunking over Donald and Klingen. Why did Preston Murphy put that out today? I don't know. I can't tell you that because I don't know, but it's very unusual. It feels like maybe a social media game that Preston Murphy is playing. Is he playing it with yours and my heartstrings? Is Grant Nelson going to come back to school? Does he know that? Or is it just, hey, I woke up on a Tuesday and I want to share this graphic? I would say that there is a message behind that graphic. You can determine what that message is yourself. But for me and myself, I'm choosing to allow myself to get excited about that. Now, the other 2 spots. LeBaron Philon. Okay, LeBaron Philon's not a name that we've talked about on this show before, because LeBaron Philon wasn't really on Alabama's radar for a long, long time. LeBaron Philon was the number 1 player in the state of Alabama for this 2024 class, right? And he was committed to Auburn for a little bit of time. He decommits from Auburn, and then he transfers from his school to the Link Academy in Missouri. Let's just full disclosure, Link Academy beat Aiden Sherrill and Darian Reed for the quote-unquote national championship, high school basketball national championship this year. So they beat Prolific Prep. Has two Alabama guys on the roster. He ends up basically leaving all the SEC offers behind. He left Auburn left Auburn behind, left Ole Miss behind, and never even really got back in with Alabama and Missouri. It was LeBaron Philon to Kansas. Well, Kansas is a little bit in a state of transition, obviously, if you haven't been paying attention. And some of this affects our buddy Rylan Griffin. Is Rylan Griffin going to end up at Kansas as previously maybe thought? I don't know. That's become less of a slam dunk than it was maybe 2 weeks ago. But what has come out is LeBaron Philon, 5-star point guard out of Link Academy in Missouri, really by way of here in the state of Alabama, has asked for his asked to be let out of his letter of intent for the Kansas Jayhawks. And what's the next stage that you hear? LeBaron Philon. Let me just let you know. Yeah, Link Academy right there. All right, what's the next thing that you heard? Was that Alabama is in serious play with LeBaron Philon. 6'4", 180-pound guard is rated as the number 33 overall player in the class by the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's rated as the number 3 overall point guard in the class. So you're going to tell me that your roster might be Mark Sears starting point guard, Aiden Holloway, and LeBaron Philon as your compliments? How stupid! How absolutely just the wealth of riches, the wealth of talent that roster would have would be absurdly otherworldly. And then lastly, that 4th spot looks like it's guaranteed to be a big. Cliff Amari is coming from Rutgers this weekend to visit Tuscaloosa. But if it's not Cliff Amari, how about Ugano Onyenso? Oh my gosh, if you heard me talk about it, Onyenso during the, you go back, 6, 8, 10 weeks or so when Alabama was going to play Kentucky up there in Lexington, and Alabama got their butts absolutely beat in Lexington. Ugana Onyenso was the main player that stood out to me when I watched Kentucky, not because of the scoring factor, but because he was the one player out there that had a defensive edge. I mean, sometimes Aiden Thero, their wing guard, did as well. But Ugano Onyenso was all over the place playing the post. Now, not really going to give you a whole lot offensively, but with the roster that I just outlined, do you need any more offense? No, you need the rim protector. That's the biggest missing piece. Even no matter what happens with Mark and Grant, no matter what happens with them, you need the rim protector. If you get Mark and Grant back, you're absolutely doing backflips in the hallway, but you still need the rim protector. And whether it's Cliff Amari or Ugano Onyenso, I think it's extremely important to secure that. I'm sitting up there at the SEC tournament with my friend Blake Byler, and you guys all follow him at Blake Byler 42, and I elbow him, and I say, Blake, if I could have one player off this Kentucky roster, I'm taking Ugano Onyenso because of the defensive need that Alabama had, and because, look, of course, Antonio Reeves would have been fun, or Reed Shepherd would have been fun. Of course, they would have been fun, and fun little scorers, and look, we'd all fall in love with them. But I think Ugano Onyenso has a lot of untapped potential. And so on Tuesday, when you saw his name, I'm not going into he withdrew from the NBA draft, essentially. That's why he's being talked about right here. He withdrew from the NBA draft and said, okay, I will use my transfer portal, and I'm going to be looking for a school. And very, very quickly, it was reported by all the reputable people that Alabama has reached out to Ugano Onyenso. So this weekend's going to be huge for Alabama basketball as Cliff Amari is coming to Tuscaloosa for a visit. If I'm Nate Oates, I don't let him leave without committing. Now, you can't guarantee that, but you've got the nice backup. Look, we talked about the backup being Jonas Adu out of Tennessee. I'm sorry, Jonas, you have now fallen to my number 3. And really, Cliff Amari, I don't know. I think I like Ugano Onyenso a little bit better. Now, that is my little bit of familiarity bias because I watched Onyenso through the season playing SEC basketball. But that made me really, really excited to see on Tuesday. So let me know your thoughts on this Alabama basketball roster. How wild would it be? Mark Sears, Aiden Holloway, and LeBaron Philon as your guards. You got Jaron Stevenson, Grant Nelson, maybe Ugano Onyenso, Latrell Wrightsville, Chris Youngblood. It's going to be, if you're able to secure Mark and Grant back, if you're able to secure LeBaron Philon, if you're able to secure Ugano Onyenso, I contend it would be the most talented roster, 1 through 13, that has ever been in Tuscaloosa, ever. Now, you wouldn't have Brandon Miller, number 1, number 2 overall pick. You wouldn't have that top-level talent, but just the quality and depth and the ability to really play so many different lineups. Because look, this year is look when Muhammad Wagi re-aggravated his foot, you were really limited in the lineups that you could play. And that's not anything against Muhammad Wagi. It just is a factor of one of those things that happens through the season. You look at the lineup, the projected lineup, the hypothetical lineup that I just outlined. You've got enough point guards that you could play 3-point guards at the same time if you wanted to. You've got enough shooters that you could do the same sort of thing. Oh, let's just put a lineup of just straight flamethrowers out there. And you have enough bigs. Like, look, Jared Stevenson's going to get himself 10 more pounds of muscle on him. Grant Nelson, the same sort of thing. He's going to get 5 to 10 more pounds of muscle on him. Aiden Sherrill, I mean, he's a freshman, but he'll be okay. You get a true big, like an Onyenso or like a Cliff Amori or like a Jonas Edu, that group looks very deep, looks very talented, and looks like it just gives roster flexibility. And I think that is something that's a dangerous thing to give head coach NATO, is because I think of his ability to game plan and his ability to put his players in the best positions is one of his best qualities. And so that just makes me very, very excited about this prospective basketball season. So that's going to do it for my show today. I appreciate everybody who's watched us. I see everybody up there in the corner watching us live. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can be a part of the show by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. Tell a friend about the show. We try to do it each and every day. Some days we miss it. Sorry I missed you yesterday. Had a crazy day off the field. So we got back into it today, and we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and